Hello, everyone. So my name is Edvinas. I come here already second time. Last time I was here, I think in March or April, and spoke also about this proactive security. And today I'm going to further discuss the topic of moving from a threat-centric to a trust-centric security model. I have around 30 minutes, so hopefully at the end of my presentation I'll have a few minutes left to also introduce kind of new product to the market, which we brought today, together with WSH as our partner and RelNet as our distributor. So let's start by exploring the topic of risk management. Many people don't really correlate information security with risk management. We have to make sure that whenever we're doing any steps in, well, IT or information security, we have to mind risk management, we have to have risk management in mind. So a lot of companies, when they plan, or at least they try, once they plan the investment into IT, they try to link that process with risk management. So in order to do IT security effectively, we first have to understand the main business processes inside of our company. And once we understand them, we do then, well, risk assessment, we understand the source, what bad could happen, and, well, in the very end, we come to a risk treatment, which is supposed to mitigate the risk, or get it accepted, or get it transferred. So a lot of people really, well, ask what risk is. And I think you've seen this, but in order to understand that any action you make in IT security, you have to have risk management in mind. And there are three vectors that actually have a direct impact upon business risk. So it's the level of threat, level of vulnerabilities, and the business impact. In, well, very simple terms, we analyze what bad things might happen in the enterprise. If those bad things happen, would we be vulnerable, and what kind of business impact that would cause? It's really basics, and everybody thinks that, well, yep, sure, what's new in here? The new here is that there are so many products on the market that are being positioned as effective. I mean, have we heard anybody speaking that, well, we're selling ineffective solution? No, everybody is trying to position their solutions in the same manner. We have the most effective antivirus system. We have the most effective blacklisting, whitelisting solution. We have the most effective backup. We have the most effective CM solution, right? In reality, I mean, I had been working as a risk management consultant for 5 years. So when we try to look at all these marketing or marketed tools that are available on the market that are supposed to increase your information security posture, we have to again start looking from a risk management perspective. And all these solutions, no matter that they do certain tasks effectively, they're very different in terms of their efficiently on how they actually mitigate the risk. So the least effective means of mitigating risk is the recovery. Why, you would ask? Very simple answer. It's very reactive. When bad things happen, at the recovery stage, we're simply dealing with the consequences of an incident. The next least effective means of mitigating the risk is detection. So a lot of companies are, even now, they're positioning their solution as, well, real-time monitoring, right? But it's also very reactive. Okay, it might be close to real-time. What good does it give you if you get a message that somebody has just stolen an information from you, or somebody has, kicked you in the butt, or anything else? I mean, it's detection. And there are three ways or three methods that actually have a direct impact upon business risk. And that's the reduction of the asset value or business impact, the reduction of level of vulnerabilities, and reduction of level of threats. Now the term threat, I'm sure you've heard and seen so many times now. Everybody's speaking about, well, advanced persistent threats, about threat management, Again, a lot of people don't really get it, what a threat is. Threat is not a virus. Attack is also not a threat. If somebody who has really had, well, in the field experience on risk and IT security management, and I'm not speaking about most sales and most marketing guys who have to invent fancy terms, but somebody really experienced, right, they would tell that these are the real threats from a security and risk management perspective. So once we speak about the hacktivists, the competitors, the organized criminals, the foreign governments, and the terrorists, now tell me, who is capable of managing that? Nobody is. So the thing we're dealing with, the virus, the attacks, this is not a threat, this is their product. The same way as a snowflake is not a threat, a storm is a threat. A snowflake is just a result of a storm, right? So when we speak about threat management, I mean, who can manage these people? There are motivation, beliefs, religion, many different aspects behind these groups which are driving them, to create some products that are meant to attack your infrastructure. And, well, we might have insiders in the company who represent these people. So in reality, when we speak about threat management, right, we mostly speak about marketing and fancy words. Market is changing. Now we see consumerization. So when we start speaking about how we should protect our infrastructure, right, usually we have to understand that, well, the methods that used to be applied years ago now have to be reviewed again. So now we see the influx of customer technology or consumer technology into business. People use the same notebook everywhere. They might use the same mobile phone to get corporate email access and also, I don't know, do Facebook chats. Mobilization of the workforce. We want to be, well, have access everywhere and every time or always. Virtualization. There is no longer a piece of hardware running a piece of software in it. We couple and decouple hardware and applications different ways. And so has the concept of hacking changed. We no longer see really students playing with something. Well, they might be, but the worst attacks, they happen because they're financially motivated and targeted. So it's become a business. It has been seriously industrialized. So when we speak about the traditional approach, the blacklisting approach, which all traditional vendors pursue, right? We're mostly speaking about, well, we as customers have been paying millions and billions of dollars for the traditional approach to security for years, right? Has anybody achieved better results this year than last year? Do we see less viruses? No. So the technology of blacklisting, we may ask ourselves, has it ever been efficient? Has it ever done any good? And the answer is no. The trends are rising. So once we speak about the viruses right now, I mean, that's the statistics. We are seeing around 7 million malware signatures identified on a monthly basis. Now tell me who is capable of dealing with that. McAfee, Symantec, Trend Micro, NOD, Asset? I mean, who is the vendor capable of, well, catching 3 viruses per second? Nobody is. So the blacklisting approach or signature-based approach has never been efficient. A lot of vendors may come with different marketing ideas, saying that, well, we have some add-ons to compensate the inefficiency of antivirus, right? What has happened over the last 5-6 years? Has anything improved in terms of traditional blacklisting approach? Not really. So there is a way to change this, but it requires the change of the mindset. And again, Gartner is offering us a rather interesting approach, which Lumension as a company has been pursuing for years. It tells that, well, the concept of Adaptive security has to be based on a trust-centric approach. So it means the foundation of the pyramid has to be based on the whitelisting approach, where we are now known good to run and we block everything else. Now imagine this, you get a rising trend of malware. What if you don't care about that any longer? How many business applications you would have in your infrastructure? 10, 20? A big enterprise might end up with, I don't know, 30 or 50. If you whitelist and you block everything else, you no longer care about known viruses, you no longer care about unknown viruses, and, well, you no longer have an issue of unauthorized applications. A very interesting approach. Well, certainly, if you have the antivirus solution and you have a signature, by all means use it. But when we're speaking about the industrialization of hacking and targeted and financially motivated attacks, you would never have a signature for that attack. So, overall, how did the market come to, okay. All right. So many years ago, well, many years, let's say 5, 10 years ago, everybody started speaking about host-based intrusion prevention systems, right? And they were not really applicable in the real-time environment. Things were changing. Applications were changing their behavior. So we no longer were capable of really profiling an application. So we simply switched. I mean, the concept of the whitelisting originated from the host-based intrusion prevention systems, but we now are very abstract. We look at, well, something different, which doesn't have the same issues. Who maintains all those thousands of rules, what is an intrusion, what is not? And who no longer have to deal with these false positives. Because when we look, when we scope down the problem and when we try to look at, well, higher levels of abstractions, we simply can tell if that application that has been running in our environment for maybe years or months, do we trust it? If we trust it, we add it to the whitelist. If we need to update it, we simply nominate a process which can update that application. So in a never-changing or in a constantly changing PC environment, it's very easy having a trusted change mechanism to really keep the whitelist enforced. And when we have whitelist enforced, we no longer care about those millions of, well, so marketed threads or viruses out there. So once we speak about the whitelisting, a lot of people, they tell, it's a great concept. How do we implement it? Every computer might be different. It might have different versions of the software running. How can we deal with a change? So the first thing everybody needs to understand that in order to secure something, you have to manage it quite well. So what does it mean in order to manage it well? There are 3 ways how a piece of malware can get onto the endpoint, or when attack would succeed. It's if the resource is vulnerable, when it's misconfigured, and of course, if user is deceived by the means of social engineering, for instance. That's it, 3 methods. So of course, there are tools which are marketed as efficient, who can try to detect it almost in real time, but it's also reactive. We have to think differently. I didn't understand quite well the previous presentation because my Hungarian is quite weak or very weak. But in most cases, when we deal with security incidents, people speak about an event that leads to an incident. And how can we deal with that? Well, we have to change the way we think. We have to start thinking of how to prevent those events that might lead to an incident into happening. And you do that really by starting to understand what can cause these events. So you have to understand the infrastructure you're dealing with. An endpoint nowadays is the weakest link in your infrastructure. It's the place where people, with the help of technology, work with, sensitive information. So in order to start with the whitelisting approach, you have to build an inventory, and you have to understand what you have, how your computers are configured. Then you have to have a software distribution agent, because eventually, even after you move everything to the whitelist, or you whitelist the main applications, block everything else, which, well, we might call a lockdown, you'd still need to distribute changes, to introduce changes to your environment. And you would also need to do patch management. So, once we understand this way of proactive security, or defense in depth approach, and we really get it that the blacklisting or reactive approach hasn't really helped us over the last, well, almost 20 years. Lumension came with a very beautiful idea which has been implemented for years right now. The first layer of defense in depth approach is called, well, patch and configuration management. It's very preventive, right? If you remember 3 ways for a virus or an attack to succeed or get onto your infrastructure, is through gaps in your security, either vulnerabilities, by exploiting vulnerabilities, or by exploiting wrong configuration or misconfigurations. And a lot of, well, remember what Gartner said once, over 90% of cyber attacks exploit known security flaws for which a remediation is available. So we have to start with patch management. It's very proactive. This gives us the ability to reduce the surface for attacks. Imagine your house, and you're literally patching, changing the windows, making sure that there are no broken windows, that your door is locked. I mean, it's very applicable in a real life environment, and so is in IT. If you reduce the surface for available attacks, you really, mitigate the risk significantly. Why? It's very effective. You fix vulnerability, there is no way a virus can get onto the endpoint or onto your infrastructure. Can you fix everything? Certainly no. But the first thing, in order for an attack or a virus to succeed, it needs to get onto the endpoint, so you reduce the surface. But once it gets there, it needs to execute. And again, if it's a blacklisting approach, in the targeted attack, in the event of targeted attack, you would never have a signature. So you need the whitelisting approach. Also note, 80% of vulnerabilities are non-Microsoft nowadays. So once the virus gets there, or an attack somebody attacks you, if it succeeds, it then starts to execute something. 7 million new malware signatures identified monthly. What can you do with that? You literally have to change your mindset. Do the whitelisting concept. With the whitelisting, you really prevent anything unauthorized from executing in your environment. Now, the third layer of defense in depth approach is related to a physical attack. What if somebody, plugs in, a physical media? That's where you do device control and port control. You really do a granular control, who can copy what. It also helps with preventing data leakage from somebody copying your database. So it's again one of the layers in defense in depth, quite proactive because you really prevent an event from happening that might lead to an incident. And, well, the very end, the least effective means the antivirus. Why do you need it still in this defense in depth approach? Well, guess what? You have a house. You change the windows, you no longer have broken glass, you change the locks of your door, you patched your house. Then you make sure that only authorized people and authorized, dogs or cats can walk inside your house. Still, there are small gaps where bacteria can get into the house. Would it be authorized to run? No, but it will remain inside your house. Dust. Yes. Autumn time. You open the window and leaves come in. They might infect your family or might infect your, cat or dog, right? It won't if you apply the whitelisting approach, because these processes cannot execute, unauthorized process cannot execute in your house. So why do you need an antivirus? Like a broom, like a cleaning, a servant who cleans your house out of dust. It's rendered harmless. But nonetheless, well, a good housekeeping, no matter what, you still need to remove it. But you no longer have to rely on an ineffective malware detection approach in order to secure environment. You only have to deal with, well, patching. You only have to deal with a whitelisting, so maintaining the list of those authorized, be it 10, 20, or 30 applications, and you'll no longer care about those millions or billions of malware signatures, which, well, some marketing guys call threats. You don't really care that any longer. So that, to some extent, concludes my, well, first part of my presentation. And that is what Lumension does. We've been on this proactive endpoint security road for years. It's really very hard for us to change the mindset of all the customers. So we try hard. We don't have, billions of endpoints where our technology is being used, but where it's used, you can check our website. It really brings amazing results because unlike the traditional blacklisting approach, it really helps you manage your operations and security in a very, very, very proactive manner. Lumension has recently been acquired by a big investor, and now two companies, Lumension and the new name, which is NetMotion Wireless, are being merged together. Has anybody heard of NetMotion Wireless? Nope? All right. Again, it's quite a new product for European market. I'm going to have another presentation tomorrow where I'll do a bit deeper dive into Lumension aspect. I'll show a demo and also speak about this proactive approach, but in a, well, more condensed way. With NetMotion Wireless, it's a bit different solution from Lumension, but it really matches the concept of, well, security and availability working together in order to reduce business risk and make our people work in a more productive manner. So NetMotion Wireless, as I said, is a new brand in Europe overall. It's all about connectivity, mobility, mobile workforce, control over your network. We're not an MDM solution. That's, well, a lot of people here right now speaking about the mobile iron, the AirWatch, and so on. So you also understand which problems NetMotion Wireless is solving. If you look, 95% of people tell that, well, mobile data deployment is important for their business. If you go in further, what is lacking in this sphere, in this area? It's to make sure that, well, connection is reliable, that mobile workforce, if we have it, be it a police department, be it a firefighters, be it transportation company, the connectivity is always a problem. We have 4Gs, we have 3Gs, we have paid Wi-Fi, we have open Wi-Fi. How to make it more secure, how to control the cost, and how to have visibility into this. So again, mobility requires connectivity, and that's where we work. So if you look at, overall, like mobility landscape, you have a lot of brands with MDM solutions, with mobilized enterprise applications, with mobile enterprise application development platforms, and so on. NetMotion Wireless stands in the middle. We help with the connectivity of people to the applications. So, very shortly, it's about connectivity, control, and visibility. For business, we solve a problem of providing a secure access, simplified, increased uptime, reliability, productivity of the workforce, and for administrators, a full chance to have control in terms of monitoring, in terms of managing the applications that use the bandwidth. So, NetMotion has two products, locality and mobility. Let's start with mobility. Mobility provides regulated, secure access. It provides persistent, always-on, optimized user experience. In simple words, it's an always-on, persistent VPN connection Unlike the traditional VPN, which is meant to secure the connection between two static sites, in this case, we're dealing with mobile workforce. It's conditional, network-aware policies and quality of service. Mobile analytics, okay, nice words. What does it mean? When we have a police officer, a fighting machine, electrician who has a tablet, a mobile phone, or a computer, the like of, well, let's say Panasonic Toughbook, and they go into the field to perform their duties, right? We can also speak about the inspectors. The problem is not that they, well, don't have a hardware itself, or they have application installed. The problem is that once they're traveling, they're losing connection. Every time, well, you change from, let's say, 3G, 4G, your application loses connectivity. What this mobility product does, it's a VPN, but it's a different one. It's always on. You're always using a VPN tunnel. No matter that the connection upon which this mobile tunnel this tunnel is built, it always remains on. So you might be traveling across the country and connectivity might be on and off, on and off. Your application would not stop working. Your application will remain intact. So whenever you resume with connectivity, you would no longer have to relaunch the application. It stays always on. What result does it give to business? Tremendous productivity increase because people are always connecting. Channel is being optimized and there is a quality of service. So whatever applications are using bandwidth, the product allows to understand and control the prioritization of these applications. So you say that your SAP, for instance, is a priority product, so it should use all the bandwidth when available. And, well, video music streaming should not. So, yeah, I started with mobility. Just to illustrate the situation, the way, how it works. So, a very simple example. Let's say you are a mobile worker. You have a tablet or a computer, and you got yourself connected at home. You don't really need to launch a VPN. It's always on. And you're always securely connected to your infrastructure. Now locality, which is the second product that I will, well, tell a few sentences about, it provides, the visibility of where you exactly are at the moment on the map and are you connected. So let's say you have now an agent which makes the connection secure. You can apply network access control details, so you're being connected to the environment once the certain criteria is met. And let's say you have, you're traveling now. So you have business applications and you decided, well, to go to a certain hotspot to perform your duty. Let's say you're police patrol and you're moving. No matter that you're moving, you'd get a different connection at the Wi-Fi hotspot in a cafe. You would still be connected, right? You would no longer have to relog, or I don't know, relaunch the applications. It's just working. No matter what the connectivity is, the application continues working. And we don't care about the application itself. So you go to corporate LAN, and again, if we detect the fastest available network, we always switch the VPN or the connectivity to that certain source. So, you manage really your all mobile devices, no matter where you are, you really understand that they are connected. If they're being disconnected, why? And locality product, again, the second one, just a few last words. It provides you more information about, well, where the devices are and what's happening with them, with their connectivity. So it does provide you with a map of the coverage that the operators, that your endpoints get from the operators. They do device mapping, well, almost in real time. So you actually see where your mobile workers are and are they connected to the infrastructure. Provides the usage, so you can optimize and save costs because you see which applications are consuming the biggest amount of bandwidth. You can do, well, drop analysis, inventory management, and application visibility. And so with mobility, you control the VPN, you prioritize, you see it always enforced, so be it a secret services organization, transportation, delivery company, utility, mining, public services company, your people are always connected. And locality provides you visibility and control. So that concludes a short overview of mobility products. So whenever we're dealing with cases that, well, two sites need to be connected and it's a Cisco customer, well, in low bandwidth condition, we would most probably just outperform our competition. But when it comes exactly to mobile workforce, people that have to be in the field in order to do their job, and the more connected they are, the better they can perform a service or a duty, right? So it's purely business concept. Then we outperform anybody else in the market. It's a new product. So whenever you feel that you might be, well, interested in test driving the product, you can contact RelNet. This is our distributor. And of course, well, Mr. Walton System House, WSH. Thank you. And for those of you who will be interested in actually looking at the product, how it sells, how the whitelisting approach is being applied in practice, please join my presentation tomorrow at, I think it's 2:20. Thank you.